Well, I suppose, guys, the hottest topic is the recent NFL draft. So why don't we start there? The Lions, first couple picks. I don't know about you guys. I know we saw the instant reaction videos. Jared was definitely not high on the Lions' first couple choices. Now that we've had time to let it soak in, watch the whole thing, where do we stand on it right now?
As I say, Jared, have you come around a little bit? You've slept on it for a couple days.
A little bit. Here's where I'm at with it. And this is what's hilarious. I was telling everybody, everyone's asking my opinion before the draft. What do you want? Who do you want them to take? And the only thing I ever said, the only way I'd be upset is if they took Bijan Robinson in the first round. I didn't even Gibbs wasn't even on my radar.
Right.
He wasn't. So when they took him 12th, it was more just like puzzling. What the hell is going on? Honestly, this is what it reminded me of at first. You know how my bracket kind of was absolutely horrendous, dead last. It's because I got too cute with it. I started overthinking everything, overthinking the upsets, and that's what this feels like to me. Whenever everyone looks at it from the outside looking in, all other 30 teams kind of like, what the hell are you guys doing? It made me pause. Then, the stories come out. Oh, the Jets were going to take him at 15. People were going to draft him. From what I heard, this draft was not the strongest draft at all. And the mock drafts were kind of like crapshoots. I mean, we saw it. Like Brian Branch, who was supposed to be a first rounder. He's, we didn't get him till the second round. I never like running backs. The thing that gives me a little bit of hope as well is that he's basically an Alvin Kamara pass catcher more than just your run it down your throat Zeke Elliott style. That makes you feel a little bit better. But I mean, he is small. I mean, 5'9", under 200 pounds, but he is fast as hell. So he's going to be fun. I mean, I can't wait to see it. It's kind of like be careful what you wish for. When I was a young kid and we would be taking the Ragnows or the Hawkinsons, all I ever wanted was a fun player. I didn't care if it translated to wins on the field. That's all I wanted was somebody fun. Well, we got it. I don't know if this is a pick that wins you a Super Bowl, but I tell you what, it's going to be what I'm watching game number 1. It's what I can't wait to see more than anything else is what he's going to look like in this offense with Johnson calling the plays. I can't wait, man, for that part. But if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, I don't think it was the right pick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we'll see, but we said all along, in Brad Holmes we trust. And I think all three of us and a lot of other people, right when they made those 2 picks, Gibbs and then Jack Campbell, the linebacker, we're all scratching our heads and we're back to, man, is Matt Millen back up there running this thing? But, then, like you said, Jared, you start seeing the reports that the Falcons wanted to trade up and get Jack Campbell, that a lot of teams thought Jack Campbell, best linebacker in the draft, and didn't think that he would make it to the second round. So people were wanting to take him. I think the thing is the Lions might be at the point, we're so used to the Lions basically needing every position. The Lions might be at a point where they need to get the guys like that they need. I think they were pretty confident they were going to trade DeAndre Swift, and they signed David Montgomery, who's maybe more of a like ground and pound type of running back. So they needed a guy like Gibbs, maybe like a Darren Sproles type of guy, that you can pass to. You can put him in the slot. He's a little more of a speed guy. Maybe they're at the point where they're getting those type of guys. They needed a run-stopping linebacker. I know we love Anzalone and Rodrigo, but they need that middle linebacker, a Brian Urlacher, a Luke Kuechly type of guy that's going to plug the holes and stop the run. So they went and got him. They went and got, Jack Campbell. So, were those the 2 names that people were expecting to hear in the first round? Probably not. But when you look at the roster and maybe the players that they needed, maybe it ended up working out. And as we said last week and in some of the videos and other stuff, Brad Holmes has a very good track record of drafting well. So again, you never know how this stuff is going to play out, but I guess we'll see. I'm excited. We talked about a lot, them never or very rarely addressing the backup quarterback when they had Matthew Stafford. And I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on Hendon Hooker. I mean, if Hooker didn't get that leg injury, he probably would have been a first-round pick. So obviously he's coming off a serious knee injury, but, he has first-round talent. I think it's the perfect situation for him. We know Jared Goff is the starter this year for sure. So go be the backup, sit, get healthy, learn the NFL, learn the offense, all of that kind of stuff. And, maybe you got a guy that can step in if you're not going to bring Goff back. But Overall, I think they addressed a lot of needs. Yeah, Branch at safety, we knew they needed some help there. So overall, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going into the draft blind and the first three choices you have, you plug right in the starting lineup, I think you're doing pretty good. And I think
Right.
that's what they got with the first three choices. May not have been our first choices from the get-go. I know we were leaning defense, at least Matt and I were.
Yeah.
But looking at the whole picture Holmes put together, I mean, he did sign some defensive players. That secondary is going to be much improved,
Right.
which was like a sieve at times. Another year under his belt, Hutchinson's going to be anchoring that defensive line. And with this linebacker, they got Campbell. I mean, he's a little slow. I mean, he's not speed burner, but he is a
Right.
tackler. He is a
Right.
tackler. And if they can send him on blitzes, and fill the hole, I think overall I'd give it a solid, just from the 3-point rating system. I'd give it a 2.4 or 5. I think a pretty solid draft.
Yeah.
Why is it that we are all? I mean, are you guys not under the same belief? Like running backs. I mean, take a look at the Chiefs. Pacheco. I mean, fifth rounder, man. I mean, a lot of these guys we saw in our backfield last year, where it's like you had these third and fourth string. I mean, number 41, to be honest, I don't even remember the guy's name, but he would come in and make plays for us.
Yeah.
So it just in a league where a lot of the times it's hard to draft, it's hard to find those kind of interior defensive players and edge rushers and that sort of thing. I just would have loved to have seen them take a shot on Carter. I know a lot of people worry about his off the field stuff. Obviously, he showed up 15 pounds overweight to his pro day. Obviously, had a lot of problems going on during this time of the year.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen them take him. That's where I'm at now.
Yeah,
I can't claim that he was going to be a success in Detroit if he is a success in Philadelphia, because he's got the perfect room around him. I mean, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, two potentially Hall of Fame players to kind of bring him under his wing. So he's in the perfect situation. I don't know if he would have had that in Detroit with just a guy 1 year older than him, and Hutchinson, who Jalen Carter honestly might look at and think I'm better than. So I just, for that point, I can understand why they maybe passed on him. He's not their culture guy, but it's hard for me to look at a team like the Eagles, who they don't overthink it, man. They look at Georgia, they look at SEC, and they say whoever the highest guy on the board is from that conference, we're going to take him. No more questions asked. And I feel like if I was a GM, if I was in one of these war rooms, I think that's my philosophy if I had to put it out there. So, and then as for the Campbell pick, that's kind of the same sort of thing I'm saying is I don't hate it. Everything I've read now that I know more about him, at first all I read was 4.7 40, white guy, Iowa, Corum, took his ankles a couple times. The only two highlights I know of him. I just would have rather seen Dean in that spot. Now, after I've thought about it a little bit more, I'm not super sold that I want Dean more than him. We'll see. I'll trust Matt Campbell and Brad Holmes in that sense, since I'm not totally sure on him. But I don't know. Time will tell, as they always say. It just sucks that the year the Lions really had a chance to really knock out the draft, it's kind of like this back and forth. Nobody knows whether they nailed it or they really screwed it up. And that just makes it uneasy, because we really needed to nail this if we wanted to contend for Super Bowl one day, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think one word you threw out there was culture, and I think we know Dan Campbell has a culture that he wants his team to have, and he has definitely instilled that with the Lions and changed things with the Lions. So maybe kind of like what I was saying, they're at the point with talent that they just need to get the guys that they need in the draft. Maybe it's the same with culture. He doesn't want to. Maybe they didn't think Jalen Carter was going to fit in, like you kind of said, with the culture. Whatever that means. Maybe they think Jack Campbell is more the leader, because a middle linebacker is going to come in and be the leader of that defense. Maybe that's the guy they really felt they needed. They've already got Anzalone, who's, played with Dan Campbell, and he's, a solid vet for sure. He's not like a Pro Bowl type of player necessarily, but, he's a leader that can teach Campbell how to play linebacker in the NFL. Rodrigo is already, established. Yeah, we all love him because of Hard Knocks, but same thing. It's not like at least right now, it's not like he's looking like he's like Brian Urlacher or something like that, so he's got room to improve. So that's what I mean. I mean, maybe, they shipped Okuda out because maybe, injury stuff, and they weren't going to resign him. Maybe it was time to move on there, and they're getting guys that fit what they want to do. And that's the biggest thing right now. I mean, they're clearly one of the hot teams or whatever in the NFL. A lot of people are going to be picking the Lions to win the North. And so you got to get guys that can come in from day one and contribute. And that's what they got. They got guys. I mean, Campbell's going to be starting day one. Branch is probably going to be starting day one. You know, Gibbs and Montgomery are probably going to be splitting carries.
Right.
But, you know, we'll see. And it's one of those things, too. Like, we fall in love so much with these mock drafts and Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, and all these mock drafts that when a Jack Campbell gets picked at 18, we go back to these mock drafts and think, oh, what? All these mock drafts had him in the second round and even in the third round. Those mock drafts, that's what they are. They're mock drafts.
Yeah.
And that's basically what Brad Holmes was saying afterwards. Basically was saying, like, screw Mel Kiper and all these mock drafts. We know his value. We know what he is as a player. That's why we took him at number 18. So I think that's part of it too. But
well, and you know that Gibbs was who Holmes and the whole staff wanted when they reacted on that video that they got him. My goodness, you know, I think they thought they pulled it over, you know, getting that pick number 12 and getting him at that spot. So you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, you know. Now, if they falter this next year, it's back to the SOL. But right now, I don't think so. I think they're on the uprise and got to feel positive, I think, about this draft. And I do want to say one thing, Jared. I know you want to jump in. I wanted to throw this out there. The whole Swift thing, you know, the writing was on the wall. He was going to be traded. They essentially got rid of him for a 4th round draft choice. The only thing that bugged me on that was sending him to the Eagles. I mean, it's too bad it wasn't some other team. It just makes a team like the Eagles have more depth. And you know how it's the team they're really trying to get past.
Yeah.
I would have just kept Swift.
Me too.
I mean, running backs, we talk about how often they get hurt. I mean, we're talking about last year. Well, we played 4 or 5 running backs throughout the year.
Right.
And Swift, I mean, say what you will about him. Yeah, he wasn't always healthy, but I mean, we know he's a good football player. I mean, he made plays. I think a lot of people didn't necessarily want to see him gone. A 4th rounder, with Brad Holmes, he turned it into probably, you know, a great player. But given the injury history and Gibbs isn't the biggest guy, I would have rather held on to him.
Yeah, I think I tweeted that, as a matter of fact, because he's in the final year of his rookie deal. What the hell do they have to lose, you know?
Yeah. But it could be the culture thing, because there were reports, you know, whether they're true or not, that after they drafted Gibbs, he was like, all right, I'm done. Ship me out of here.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Deuce McAllister was the running back coach, and he's not with Detroit anymore. So maybe he wasn't really feeling the love anymore in Detroit. But, you know, who knows? It's always one of those things, too, where it's like, say Gibbs ends up being even just a good player, you know, a solid player, not necessarily like an all-pro player. You're going to forget where he was drafted. 4 or 5 years from now, you know, you're even going to forget that he was a 1st rounder. It's all about if he ends up being a bust.
Listen,
if Jack Campbell ends up being a bust, we're all going to say, another 1st rounder.
I'm going to love Gibbs. You know, you're not going to hear me say a bad word about him from here on out, unless he's like unless he's just depleted with injuries.
Right.
Other than that, I'm going to love watching him play. I can see it right now. Game number 1, Christian McCaffrey, the little arrow
Swing
route
pass
out of the backfield to take it to the house.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be fun. 4.36. I mean, he's the fastest guy in the draft. Never going to hate it when you take the fastest guy in the draft, considering how the league has changed over the years, and that is such a premium. Ted, I mean, I feel like we kind of buried the lead.
Yeah.
Your prayers were finally answered with, I mean, we talked about it for a second. Hendon Hooker, the backup quarterback. We finally got it. I mean, did you faint when they took him?
You know what? My honest opinion on Hooker is I'm still not sold on him. I mean, he had some talent. He had 1 good year at Tennessee, and he's hurt. So you can't really give him backup time this year. Maybe you can after a few games, but I'm just being honest. Yeah, he looks like he could be the guy that maybe would put pressure on Goff after a year or so. But that one to me was just kind of a okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things like, you know, we've said for so long, like at some point they have to address it. So if they would have drafted a QB in the 1st or 2nd round, I think people would have been upset. Say it was a Will Levis or, you know, something like that. Why are you spending a 1st or 2nd round draft pick on a backup quarterback when you have, you know, Jared Goff? They got Hendon Hooker, like I said, without the injury, he probably would have been a 1st or 2nd round draft pick. And they got him, you know, a few rounds later, basically because of the injury. So it's almost like you you take a shot on the guy.
Yeah.
And, let it be, like I said, Goff is the guy this year. Everyone knows that. Goff is the starter this year. So there's no pressure on Hooker. Go in, get healthy, learn how to be a quarterback in the NFL, learn the offense. And who knows, maybe it really clicks with him and they don't have to bring Goff back. You never know.
Let me ask both you guys this though, and we've talked about it before with Goff. Why do we always preface it that, yeah, Goff's got this year? Why aren't we looking at, man, he might be our quarterback for the next 4 years or so? I mean,
This is a big
he's
year
got the
for him.
numbers. This is a big year for him. I agree with you there. But I mean, he did take the Rams to the Super Bowl. All right. He came into Detroit with all that burden of filling Matt Stafford's shoes. It took him a little while, but once he learned the system and once they put the players around him, and you look at the rankings out there of NFC quarterbacks, he's right there in the top 5, isn't he?
Especially in the NFC, because a lot of the great QBs right now in the NFL are in the AFC. So my biggest thing has always been how much money he's going to demand, I guess, with that next deal. Because you see a lot of teams now are going the route of taking a rookie, like the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts, build around the rookie while they're on that cheap contract. And then obviously if he turns into a Jalen Hurts, you got to pay him. So that's always my thing. Because, say you move on from Jared Goff and you hope that Hendon Hooker is going to turn into a great player, you're taking a pretty big risk because basically what you have in Goff.
Exactly.
It's not going to always be pretty, but
he's
the
an
way
NFL
that he
quarterback.
The way that he played in the second half of the season, yeah, give him an extension if he's going to play like that. And he's still fairly young. He's got a good chunk of time left in his career. He's basically been healthy, most of his career. So, no, I'm not against the extension. To me, it's just what he's going to ask.
Yeah.
If he wants to be the top paid quarterback in the NFL, which I doubt that's what he's going to say, but if that's the demand he's going to make, then that's where I'd be like, I don't know about that.
Well, from the outside looking in, maybe I'm naive, but just watching how he operated last year and how he has bought into Dan Campbell, the coaching staff, the whole culture in Detroit, he seems to be a guy that has the good attitude, and he seems to be a guy that would kind of like Brady did in the past, where he would backload some of that salary and work with the team so he doesn't penalize the team. I just get that feeling from watching him.
Especially given that he already had like a max deal when he signed with the Rams. He was the top paid quarterback in the NFL at one point. So everyone, I'm not trying to like count his bank account or whatever, he get whatever money you want, but he's not hurting for money.
No.
So, if he wants to take a little less so the Lions can sign, because at some point they're going to have to sign Hutchinson to a long-term deal. They're going to have to sign St. Brown or, whoever, some of these other guys. So, if he wants them to build a team around him, I'm sure he understands that. So, I'll be curious to see what they do.
Good problem to have. Good problem to have.